Andretti closing up on Reutemann as they go down the straight towards Tarzan, and it looks as though he's going to try and take it.
An important victory indeed for Mario Andretti. It launches him further forward in the championship race.
Victory Lane at Sebring. The winning car, Ferrari number 21. Mario Andretti visits the winner's circle for the second time at Sebring.
This is the scene in the closing moments. The white flag, one lap for Mario Andretti. This was the one he wanted more than anything else in the world. And here it comes, Mario. The checkered flag of victory. He's done it. Mario Andretti has won the 1967 Daytona 500.
You have no idea how much appreciation I have for the fans, the help that I've had over the years, you know, just the expression of encouragement. There's a lot of love out there.
Wow, I'm going to be honest, I'm very starstruck right now. We are with a man who needs no introduction, a true legend, the GOAT of anything with a steering wheel, Mr. Mario Andretti. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Bart. Hi, Chris.
I assume that your day is going pretty well. We saw you ripping donuts on your Kawasaki this morning on Instagram.
Yeah, you got to do something, you know. I mean, had a little ice on the driveway, so I figure we'll check it out. Check the grip level out.
There you go. We got some snow here as well. But, you know, we wanted to start out and kind of go back a ways. Being born into World War II, when there were many sports that had like gone on hold, racing had been suspended. How, when you were a boy and being born into a time like that, did you get into racing when it wasn't really happening?
Well, that's a good question, but I think a lot of this, the interest and what got my brother and I pretty much attracted to it was when we were in the early teens, when we were already in a refugee camp in Lucca in Tuscany, and so there was in the 50s, early 50s, and as you know, Formula One was born in 1951 officially. Mm-hmm. So you had, you know, the Italians very much involved. The first world champion was Italian, Nino Farina and Alfa Romeo, and then of course Ferrari, Maserati. So with all of that activity, as you can imagine, I mean, whether it was magazines or newsreels, the motor racing was at the forefront. Even, you know, in some ways, it was leading the news before soccer, you know, which again, you know, soccer is like football here. And but as you know, as kids, you know, we just gravitated to it, and we still don't know why, because you know, the family didn't even have a car, you know, so, but it didn't matter. It's something that we pursued, and then when we finally saw our very first race, the Italian Grand Prix in 1954. Gosh, I mean, that's it. You know, I always say the mold was cast then, and the dream grew bigger and bigger and more ambitious in so many ways, because you're allowed to dream when you're a kid, right? You know, so, and you know, having a twin brother, we were pursuing the same ideals, and when we came to the States, you know, opportunities came up. 2 years after we arrived there, we started building the stock car, you know, to start racing locally.
Yeah.
And so you made it to the U.S. and you guys landed in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. How did you guys end up there?
Well, it's easy. I mean, in those days, to obtain a visa, you had to have someone here that would guarantee that you would have a place to stay or even a job. Otherwise, you could not obtain a visa. In fact, my dad waited 3 years. He had even forgotten that he applied for a visa. And then it was decision time when it finally came through. But, to answer your question, the uncle on my mother's side was here in Nazareth. He was a foreman at one of the cement mills, which are predominant around here. And that's it. That's why we got here, and I never left.
So what kind of car was it that you and Aldo were building?
We were building a 48 Hudson, and the reason for that is one of our buddies was kind of a geek, and he kind of knew quite a bit about NASCAR and so forth. And in those days, Hudson factory teams were very prominent, very good, especially on the dirt tracks. And that's because of the rigidity of the body system, that was unit body construction, if you will, rather than rail construction. So we didn't know why, but and then we bought some information from one of the teams that actually had folded in NASCAR, and we obviously we had a good setup because we started winning right away on the local level. We were not running modifieds; we could not afford that. We were running what they call sportsman and series, and but nevertheless, we were doing well. And we had one car, two drivers, so we had to alternate. He drive 1 week, I drive the other week, and
there you go.
But that was still was a good start for us.
Yeah, and like you said, you started winning, and you had some unprecedented success for how quickly you came into everything. At what point in your racing career did you all look and say, dang, Mario can drive anything that he sits behind? When did it kind of click for you that you were going to be really competitive?
Well, as you can look back, as I do, going through all the categories, I felt it was like going to school. We're just progressing from year to year. And almost every season I would look back and say, am I better off? Did I progress? And from our stock cars, we went to the 3/4 midgets. And I was winning there. I was winning against, some of the icons of midget racing: Len Duncan, Tony Bonadias, Tony Rahman, and then from there to full size midgets and eyeballing to go forward to sprint cars, and then finally tried to reach the champ cars, which was the ultimate in an open wheel series. So if you're winning in any category, you want to move on. You don't want to repeat. Just like if you're in school, if you're in third grade and you get pretty good, credits, and then your report card looks good, then you want to move on. You don't want to repeat it. So that's what I did, and that's what I was trying to do, because I always was thinking, ambitiously, if you will. That's when I get to the top, I'm not comfortable. Even though, some people are just very happy to make a career out of just the local stock car racing or whatever, which is fine. It's a personal preference, but I just wanted to, I was looking to get to the top, and that's what I worked toward, and was very fortunate in so many ways to get the breaks. And timing, I think, had a lot to do in a lot of situations, because you look back, you figure, what if this wouldn't have happened? What if that wouldn't have happened? And, but for me, again, it was fortunate in that respect, vis-a-vis, say, even my brother. My brother somehow just encountered so many bumps on the road that it was just amazing as to why. You ask yourself why, but nevertheless, that's life, and you have to take it the way it comes to you, I guess.
Yeah.
So one of those successes was a Daytona 500 win, and that was fresh off of back-to-back USAC IndyCar championships. competing against the biggest names in NASCAR. Can you just take us back to what you were thinking with virtually no experience racing in that series and you won the most coveted race?
Yeah, I mean, when I look back at what attracted me to doing, other disciplines was the fact that I was curious, and I had opportunities. I had, a great relationship, with Ford and other manufacturers. I mean, I raced for Smokey Eunuch, with Chevy, but with Ford, they gave me the opportunity to be with, with the Hummel and Moody team and alongside of Freddie Lorenzo at the time, which, he was the golden boy of NASCAR at the time. And so I knew that I would have decent equipment. And sure enough, they gave me what I needed and brought it home. So tremendous satisfaction there, as you can imagine, because it certainly was not my specialty. And you're driving, against the icons as we know them, in the sport. Tremendous satisfaction then and now, quite honestly, when I look back.
And there are some personalities in NASCAR. I know that they don't really take well to newcomers, especially if newcomers are having success. Did you clash with anybody when you started racing in NASCAR?
Not really. Not that I felt it, quite honestly. When I was asking questions, I wasn't getting many favors, quite honestly. If you expect that, but that was expected. The one guy that I really, really will never forget that set me straight on some things was Donnie Allison. And one day was, we were just chatting and I knew that the car felt pretty good but I wasn't getting the speed so we're talking about gear ratios and so forth. So I told him I was running a 370 gear. I says, what rev should I be turning? He says, every day, all day, 72 without a toe. I said, well, without a toe, I'm running like 400 revs short of that, running to 6,800. So that's when I started complaining about engines, and I was not getting that, the top engines, and it's a long story about that anyway. So I kept squeaking, sometimes the squeaky wheels gets the grease, and I tried to go through the political chain, and somehow I squeaked long enough that I got some decent engine, and all of a sudden I'm running pretty fast because I actually, when I got a decent engine, I was scuffing tires going faster than what pole position was by Curtis Turner, by half a mile an hour. So
wow,
I knew that, if I could, but the car was very neutral, because I had to qualify on a single qualifying with the lay down spoiler, and you had to race with the same spoiler that you qualify with, and most of them had 45 degree, I had a 60 degree, and I was stuck with that, and did that because again, I needed some straight line speed, which I didn't have, and and I was concerned that I could keep the car under me because in traffic the car was pretty damn loose, and so I had to really try to go for the lead. Which I did. That's why I led more than half the race, about half the race, or more than half the race actually. But I had an opportunity to just do some good dueling with Richard Petty, Dave Pearson, and guys like that, and Yarborough, and that was really, to me, it was so special, and to be able to do that. And David Pearson, especially, we were going back and forth, trading the lead like every other lap, and he was very correct, toward me. We had good, honest racing, and that was teaching me every lap. I was learning something, obviously, but overall, I could hold my own because at the end there, on the last stop, and when Freddie and I came in together, I was leading, and they let him go out of the pits first, because for them at that point it was more interest for for them to have him as a regular to lead, and I mean to win them myself. And but I ran him down, and then I couldn't shake him. But finally, you know, I was able to just pull away from him. It was actually on a lapping situation with Tiny Lund. I kind of tricked him a little bit, and it worked. And then he could never hook up with me again on a draft. And but I had the car. You know, for me, it was just a matter of keeping it from the guardrails, you know, because when I was following, I was really loose. And sometimes, if you would see some of the videos, I was running really high on the track. I didn't dare to have anyone try to overtake me on the outside if possible, because I think it would have spun me right around. So.
Right.
I had to just be, I had to drive my race, and they, I think I kept confusing the regulars to some degree, because in those days, like even halfway through the race, why would you really try to go for the lead? So they were much more patient, saving fuel and trying to draft. And because in those days, the aerodynamics of the car were not that good, so the drafting was really powerful. You could follow a car with half throttle, around the track. And but I had to lead because of that, and they figured, well, let him lead, and it worked for me, quite honestly. So interesting. Yeah.
Very nice. You had mentioned Smokey Eunuch, working for him a little bit. I heard he's a pretty interesting character. What was it like to work with him?
Well, it was a challenge, quite honestly, because he was so protective of his secrets, because I think, I think everybody knows he was cheating like crazy everywhere. So he would not even allow me, which I didn't know what the heck I was going to be seen anyway, but he would not allow me to even be in the garage. And that's why when he asked me to drive, which is the first time that I drove, the year before I drove for him, he wanted to experiment with me on setups, and me being, young and inexperienced, he felt he doesn't know any better. So, and some of the setups that I found out later, I felt like I was on the post stick out there. I had no feel of the car, and I kept thinking the car was fast, and straight away. But the setups, I found out later, and I again. I kept thinking, man, these guys must be magicians to be able to drive these cars for 500 miles the way they feel, and then I found out pretty quick, that the car was diabolical, but he couldn't do that with the experienced drivers, because, obviously they knew better, but with me, it was perfect. So it was interesting. It was quite the experience, quite honestly. But as you say,
hilarious. He
was a very interesting guy, in every way. And even with that, I'm so glad that I had the experience to be with him. So you just put that one down as one of the interesting parts of my career, quite honestly.
Yeah. Well, switching gears, you've had a lot of success in endurance racing: Sebring, 6 hours of Daytona, Watkins Glen, 24 hours of Le Mans. What is it like to physically and mentally prepare for these types of races?
Well, there's a physical aspect for sure, and especially, the days in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and even the 80s, there were only 2 drivers in the car. In the 80s, they started doing 3 drivers, especially in the 12 or 24 hours. Now they got 4 drivers, so it's like it's a real banker's deal. It's a lot easier. Going back again, I was just looking at a video somebody sent me about the 1970 race that I wound up winning with the 3rd Ferrari. There were 3 Ferrari. Anyway, and I looked pretty tired because my car actually broke a gearbox with about the 10th hour. We had 12 lap lead on the field, and I took over the 3rd car, which is the only other Ferrari that was left, and then we won with that. But the point I'm making, I looked pretty tired. I could hardly talk, when they were interviewing me. And that's the way it was in those days. I remember in '67 when Bruce McLaren and I won Sebring, and it was so hot, that whole, the race was particularly hot and windy. So we got a lot of debris in the cockpit intake, air intakes and so forth. And we were dying. And I think, when I came back home, I think my mom, when she saw me, started crying. It looked like my eyes were sunk in my head about 2 inches. I looked pretty bad. But it gets all of it. I mean, you give every ounce of energy that you have. If you finish those races, especially with 2 drivers, believe me, it was a chore in itself.
I couldn't imagine. You raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. That was the first year that Ford won in the GT40. It's a movie, it's documentaries, it's well documented, the rivalry between those manufacturers. What was it like being a part of that in real life?
Oh, it was wonderful. Actually, the Ford program really worked for me, mainly because I wanted to hone my skills, road racing skills in those days, because I had my set on Formula One, and I didn't have many opportunities, especially in the IndyCars, to do much road racing. And so when I was able to join the Ford Le Mans program, it was an extremely ambitious program. I mean, they wanted to go there and win, which they did. And so that required a lot of testing. And I was part of all of the testing, basically. I just made it my business to be available. And so, it was a wonderful program. And I'm just so happy that, Bruce McLaren and I won the first race with a Mark IV, at Sebring, and Le Mans in '66. Unfortunately, we blew the engine. We had a gasket or something go, halfway through. But nevertheless, it was great to be part of that program. It was fabulous, actually.
That's pretty cool. And so we fast forward a little bit to '69 when you've captured your 3rd IndyCar championship. And how at that point, I mean, you've gotten the 500, you've gotten the Daytona 500. How at that point do you stay level-headed with all the success that you're having?
Well, I never looked at it that way, level-headed. I was just grateful for the opportunities that I had to really pursue just what my desires. I wanted to be a race driver. I had more passion than anyone that I know, and enjoying it to the fullest. I just wanted to be in a race car, any type of race car, throughout the season. And so at that point, things were going well, as you could see. We were able to already had my first Formula One race under my belt. In fact, in '68, I put the car on pole, my very first experience with the Lotus. And as you can see, I had some success already with sports prototypes and some more to look forward to. So things were going, as well as I could have hoped, quite honestly, in every possible way. And here I am. I'm still young enough to. I said, I'm enjoying this to the fullest and making the best of it. I want to be in a race car, period. And to today, I have a lot of those desires, except for my age. But the passion never left me, quite honestly.
And is it that passion that, or did the success ever feel like it was weighing you down? You said you were young and having all this success. I mean, does the passion kind of help you overcome the large expectations when you go to some of these premier teams and the cars that have great setups?
Well, like I said, that's as you go, you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have success, you're going to have all of it. And a lot of it, I'll always say, I have later on in life, I realized that, you need some psychological help too. And I had that very much at home with my wife. We were married young. We had a family at a young age. And so the responsibilities there. And sometimes you have a tendency to feel guilty in a sense because you're satisfying your own whims, what you want to accomplish sometimes at the sacrifice of other things, such as a family outings and picnics and all that.
Yeah.
But Dee Ann is a wonderful lady, wonderful woman. She took care of that side very well, and she kept me grounded in every way. So I had a lot of help that I didn't even realize how good that was, until later on when you start reflecting on these things. So again, everything means something. And again, I was just thankful that that I dodged so many bullets to that point that I could keep on racing. There were other aspects of the negative side, losing friends, very close friends, in the business. It was obviously not as safe as we're enjoying it today, for instance,
Right.
of course. But nevertheless, I think the desire is what kept me going no matter what. I was not going to be deterred by any of those negatives. But again, still from a family side, if I would have had issues there, like, make me feel guilty of this and that, I would add something else to combat and deal with that, probably would have interfered, with my performance, if you will, and even my desire. And in fact, but nevertheless, even when I decided to retire, in 1994, when I was 54 years of age, I decided on my own without discussing it with my wife. And even she said, you're going to be so miserable. I said, I think you had another couple of years in you, she was like that. And she was happy that I retired, believe me. But at the same time, she was looking after me and said, I know how you're going to be. That's the kind of woman you dream about living your life with.
Yeah, and you've kind of answered this question in some way, that you were spending a lot of your time when you were away from the track with your family. But we see so many drivers that have all these hobbies outside of driving, like Jimmy Johnson's always in Aspen riding dirt bikes, and Dale Jr. threw big parties and had his little dirt track out behind his house. Did you have any traditions like that you did with your family when you were off the track?
Oh, yes, absolutely. As much as possible. In fact, back in '68, I had the opportunity to buy a property up in the Poconos lake and so forth. It was like a small, you could call it maybe a small resort that
Okay.
was owned by ex-automobile dealers from Carbondale. And but that turned out to be really fabulous for us because winter or summer, you could recreate there. I mean, we have our own lake, and I always had all kinds of watercraft, and you talk about motocross bikes and four wheelers. I mean, still do.
We saw this morning.
I'm a toy freak, so. And that was really bringing our family together, because even with the kids, we had a little bit of everything. Even my daughter Barbie we had horses up there. We got tennis court. So as a family, that was golden. Even to today, we still, even my brother's side, all those families come in summer, and in winter, I'm going up this weekend. There's plenty of ice. I got a couple of snowmobile racers, and in fact, the one that is a real racer. I ran the record on that lake is 127 miles an hour, and I'm holding with that machine. So I'm going to be running that this weekend and see how it goes. Always stayed active. That's one thing that. And every minute, I remember I would be driving like in winter, like in Formula One. The first races would be Argentina and Brazil because of the reverse of the seasons, and between Argentina and Brazil was like there was 1 week in between, And, you know, almost everyone would go, you know, in Brazil, it'd be Rio de Janeiro, out on the beach, Ipanema, and so forth. And I would come back here and go snowmobiling up to the lake. And everybody was envious because I always had a nice tent in the winter, you know, and then go back and race the following week down there. So as you can see, one thing I can tell you, I did not spend 1 minute longer than I had to on the road. I always tried to come back.
That's
and
awesome.
Many times it would have been so much more convenient to just stay overnight and maybe 2 nights, and then instead of traveling, I always came back. And that's one thing that I feel good about, because at least that I made that effort, and that's in earnest.
That's
whether
awesome.
it's true, whether you should feel, you know, that way or not, but I felt that I did my part as much as possible.
Yeah. And to bring it kind of, so I grew up in Colorado. I was born in Littleton, and my family, my grandparents, they lived in Colorado Springs. So riding the train up Pikes Peak was a huge thing. You don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but you got to tell me, how did you get involved with the Pikes Peak hill climb? And that's one of those situations to me where I'm like, he can just win no matter what he sits behind.
Well, I got lured there by Bobby Unser. You know, Bobby Unser used to spend a lot of time together, and Al in the sense, but Bobby primarily. And he said, man, he said, you got to run the peak. I said, oh man. I said, I don't know. I mean, it would take too much time. No, I'll tell you, I'll give you. So anyway, and he says, I have you'll drive my car. He said, and I'll drive stock cars. So that's how it all started. But, you know, the first one there, and I was driving his car, actually, the suspension broke. And I didn't hit anything. The car was a light, was a Formula 2. He thought it was a Formula 1. A Formula 2 chassis, the Lotus that he bought from Jim Hall. And he put a big Chevy in it and so forth. The thing was like a rocket, but it broke down. And I finished fourth, I know, the first. And I owned 3 wheels, basically dragging, you know, from the W zone up. But then the second year, I drove my car. In '68, there was the rear engine, Brabham, and and I think I could have won it there, but they, you know, that's a long story. But the carburation, I did all the carbureting, you know, Champion plugs, and then I had a deal with Ford, and I had to run auto lights on race morning, and they had the wrong heat range, and as soon as you got up to above the tree line, the car sputtering and would run. So there, you know, so I didn't win that. But then the third year, I drove a conventional car. Actually, it was an upright dirt car, and I wound up in the rocks qualifying. You know, so I had to start last. And the good thing, sometimes the track is, you know, probably not in the best condition because the dirt track, you know, was all the way up was dirt.
Right.
But at the same time, they used to they have they would send you out 1 minute, you know, in between. And sometimes you had if you were faster than the guy in front, you know, you had a chance, you know, you catch them and then they would just slow you down. And I remember that at that point, I kind of waited about 3 minutes, and I had a choice because I was the last. I think it's good that I did, because I was really taking a lot of risks and so forth, and I had no idea, you know, whether it would be good enough, but I was good enough to win. And then at that point, I said, man, I'm not going back, because I don't know how I made it alive, because I really, and I knew that's really how you could really gain, by being a bit stupid, you know, because some of these places, I mean, if you miss, there's no guardrail, you know, at the end of the Devil's Playground, which was the fastest part of the course halfway up, you know, it's a straightaway, which actually it's a slightly downhill, and you're doing about 125, 130 miles an hour. And it's got almost like a hairpin at the end, but no guardrail, and it goes straight down about 2,000 feet. So everybody there is backing off way, and I went deep, and I know I gained probably 10 seconds there, you know.
Oh
and
my
I was doing
gosh.
stupid things like that. So I figured, oh man, this is it. And it was good enough to win. So in fact, at that point, I was the first one to break the 12-minute. I was 11:58, you know, my time. But that's it. I said, that's good enough.
That's it. You found a success in every car you drove, F1, IndyCar, NASCAR. I'm just curious, was there a car that was what was the hardest car to learn how to drive?
Well, any car that doesn't handle, you know, it's, when a car works, you know, the drivers have the same feel for anything, whether it's a stock car, a sports car, you know, you find a limit and you're looking for balance, you know, and if the car is balanced, it feels good to anybody. So that's the objective all the time, you know, to try to do that, make the car as easier to drive so you can be consistent. And you know, from a driver's standpoint, I think it helps if you understand the dynamics, not just aerodynamics, but suspension dynamics and everything else to help yourself. Because with all that is known about a computer and so on and so forth, telemetry they get back, still, I mean, there's certain nuances that the driver can just probably zero in on the sweet spot, you know, ultimately by identifying some of those things. And that's one thing that I really tried to pay attention throughout my career, especially having had the opportunity with Firestone to do a lot of testing to look for those nuances where it could help me. And I think in so many ways that was beneficial, and you know, throughout my career, and I took advantage of that, you know, many times to you know, to get the results that probably I would not have had.
I'm also interested in a few of your favorites. So what was your favorite series to run in?
Well, you know, I have to say Formula One, mainly because that's where my dream began. And it was the opportunity. I won my first race there with Ferrari, and I drove the last race with Ferrari. And had, you know, just that's something that was, no one could understand that but me. The Indy cars were obviously the longest part of my career. That was where I concentrated in, you know, before my Formula One and after. Sports prototypes, you know, I love that. I love every aspect of those cars. They're fun to drive. They look good and all that. And having the opportunity to drive stock cars, I drove stock cars in USAC. USAC for a period had the same formula as NASCAR, basically. And they were running some road races already in USAC, which I did. I ran like Wentzville, Missouri. You know, I had some second, third place. I think I won one in Canada. You know, they called it Kawartha 250. I was driving for Ray Nichols, you know, in a Charger. But again, I even drove on the dirt. You know, with drove Springfield, DuQuoin, you know, against Foyt and all the Parnelli, all those guys on a dirt stock car. So again, I was able to experience all that. You know, a lot of the drivers today have never driven a stock car on the dirt. Well, I did. Now they're going to be able.
Now they are.
They're doing what? Richmond, is it?
Bristol.
Bristol.
No, Bristol. Yeah, Bristol. You know, on the dirt. So they're going back. You know, and that's great to see. Obviously, because they're going to have you know, the super speedway, short tracks. They're going to have dirt, and they're going to have road racing. So you can see that, you know, NASCAR is diversifying itself, which is very healthy. It's wonderful. It's great to see, you know, the crossover with Jimmy Johnson now. You know, a feeling that he accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish in NASCAR. Now he wants to satisfy his career by experiencing some, you know, success in Indy cars. He's zeroing on road racing, obviously, which is great. He's with the top team, with the Ganassi team. So, you know, he's going to have good equipment. You know, he's going to have a good time. And it's, you know, it peaks out the interest, you know, from the fans and everyone. I'm so looking forward to seeing that myself, you know, and I'm sure his fan base is as well.
Yeah, me
all
too.
of these things are good for the sport. So, yeah, a lot to look forward to, quite honestly.
What about a favorite track? Did you have a favorite of all the tracks you've ever raced?
You know, Bart, I never really, my standard answer is everywhere I want to race.
Yeah.
Right. You know, but at the same time, subconsciously, you know, obviously, you know, he said, but I never expressed the fact, oh yeah, oh, man, I don't like this place. You know, if you feel that way, might as well stay home. You're almost beat before you get there, you know. So I really tried to just keep the same attitude, you know, and going no matter where I went. And it worked. I think it works for you that way. But ultimately, you know, the ones where I like, you know, some places where I won multiple races, you know, like Long Beach or say even Trenton, New Jersey, I won 6 races there on that mile track. I have no idea why, you know, I just lucky there, you know, because that was a mile track and I won on a mile track and a mile and a half. And the mile and a half at Trenton, to extend it, the back straightaway, they put a right-hand turn. They put a right on an oval. They put a right-hand turn, and then so that was really tricky. But I loved that challenge because everybody was all screwed up there. You know, they were trying to compensate, you know, for that, and giving up on the 2, you know, on the 3 and 4, and 1 and 2, and so it was a matter of, you know, trying to compensate properly, you know, and so there was a challenge. There was an extra challenge there. I love that, you know, so, but again, you know, you put more races together. You know, my son Michael won 7 times in motorsport, and he doesn't know why either. He said, you know, I don't know why I was so lucky there, you know, but that's how things go, I guess.
That's awesome.
So I cannot answer your question properly.
Was there any win that felt a bit more special than any other wins that you had?
Oh yeah, that's no question about it. For me, I'd say as far as wins, you know, winning the big ones like you know, Daytona, winning Indianapolis, and then for me, winning the Italian Grand Prix, you know, where I saw, as you can, you know, as I told you, my very first Formula One race, just to win there. I won in sports cars there too. I won the 1,000 Ks in 73 there for Alfa Romeo. And also it was something very special for me to win Long Beach in Formula One because you're winning your home Grand Prix. And in Formula One, there's something that it's a feather in your cap if you can win your home Grand Prix because, you know, the circuit be so international. If you're British, you want to win the British Grand Prix and so on. And in 77, what was really special that even later on, I never realized myself, but in 77, I won the Long Beach Grand Prix and I also won Monza. So I won my home Grand Prix and my native Grand Prix, you know, which was it was a double there that I never realized how good that was even then, you know, until later on I said, hey, you know, I wish somebody would have paid attention to that. You know? But, you know, so you pinch yourself sometimes when you can say that. And so, like I said, I have a lot to be thankful for.
And you also had your sons, your nephew, your grandson all follow in your footsteps. What, did that just make it even better?
Yes, I mean, Bart, it's not only better, there's a lot of pride that goes into that. I mean, from both sides of our family, Aldo's family, my family, seemed like, you know, the kids just chose to pursue, you know, this going in this direction. And especially when you see them successful, I mean, that's so much satisfaction to that because you know how much they're enjoying that side of it. And it's a tough road to hoe, but believe me, and nothing comes easy. And when you see that, you know, they're coming away with results and so forth, you know, it's just, it's fabulous to see. And I've been lucky, you know, to see Michael. I've seen Jeff doing this thing, even though he's had some bad luck. And but nevertheless, you know, we've had our moments, believe me.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you one, you know, as a family, in 1986. Pocono 500. My son Jeff was driving the Indy, was a ARS, was like the Indy Lights of today, which was supporting event. And he was on pole and he won that one. Michael was on pole for the 500 and I won the 500. So between the three of us, we cleaned house up there, you know, as a family, you know, oh my goodness, you know, we celebrate, of course. And again, you look back at moments like that, and even as a family in 91 and 92, 4 of us were in the Indy 500, which never happened before or since, to have 4 members of the same family at the Indy 500. So you could see, you know, we were truly blessed, that we've been blessed, and we still are, you know, in the sport. So, you know, Mike and I, for instance, in Indy cars, we were on podium 15 times together in an IndyCar race, and we started in the front row 10 times, and we finished first and second 5 times.
That's
you know,
so cool.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, you know. So, like I said, we're looking back. Yes.
It's great to race with family, but you also had rivals. You had a rival in AJ Foyt. He was your biggest rival. What was your relationship with him then, and is it any different now?
Oh, it's a lot better now. Yeah, we're best friends now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. But I mean, it's you know, it's rivals like that, like, you know, Foyt, the answers and so forth. And, you know, and in Formula One, some of the best ones, Lauda, you know, Stewart, and, you know, on and on. The guys that are better than you, they're the ones that raise your game. And, you know, when I came on the scene in Indy cars, you know, Foyt was already established champion, 5 years my senior. And, you know, you're a young kid, who would I look up to? I mean, someone like that. And everybody saw it's, you know, kid, you know, you're just dreaming, and well, you want to dream and you want to make it a reality. So you work harder because of that. I think Foyt made me a better race driver, and I might have subconsciously might have contributed to him even going harder. Who knows? But you know, the rivalries are to me ultimately very healthy. I mean, that's what every sport has rivalries, and now when AJ and I look back, you know, the first thing that he says whenever we meet anywhere, he says, "I can't believe we're still standing." You know? Knowing all the battles that we've gone through, and you know, and the things that have happened to our own friends, you know, our other drivers that were not so fortunate. So we look back, and we both know how much we should be thankful for. But yeah, you know, we. You know, I addressed him as my BFF, and at first he didn't know what the heck that meant. But we have fun with that one, you know. So, but it's all good there.
Yeah, and you know, we know the history, and we just had to ask you about it. We'd have been remiss if we didn't flash back on some of this stuff. We know it's all well documented, but I think my question, and it's very simple, but I think it's complex as well, is most people at your age with your accomplishments would kick up their feet and sit back and say a career with a lot of success, well-deserved, but you keep working your butt off and you're still working. Why?
I'm driven, you know. I just love to be active and to have some contribution also. Somewhere, you know, something that satisfies me. And, you know, there's a lot of things in the business. I just love what Michael is doing as a team owner, interested, you know. Marco, obviously, you know, he said he's pulling back some, which, you know, it's his choice. But nevertheless, there's so much to look forward to. Watching, you know, all these youngsters coming on board. Like, I love watching Colton Herta, you know, this young lad as he is, how, you know, how incredible, you know, he's shown to be, you know, at his age, you know, right from the beginning, and looking the prospects of his career. I'm dreaming for him to see him in Formula One and all that. So again, and I follow all of it. I follow NASCAR, I follow the IMSA, I follow Formula One. Motor racing is still at the forefront, of my interests. And as you say, we have businesses. I have businesses that are doing well, and those are always the challenges every day. But that's what keeps you going, And people say, "How's your retirement?" I'm never retired. I might retire from one phase of something, my career, but I'll never retire until they put me in a box, And I'll stay active because that's the way I love it. That's the way I like to live.
Well, and speaking of staying active, and I can see it behind you, that Ford that you won the Daytona 500 with. I've got an 18-month-old daughter, so we watch cars a lot. And how did you come into the cameo in Cars, where you actually got to play your number 11 Ford that you won the 500 with?
I don't know. Somehow I was asked to do so. And I welcomed the opportunity, quite honestly. I know that Paul Newman was involved in that, and I was friendly with what was his name, the producer there.
Oh man, I forgot now.
Yeah, I was thinking I should remember, but anyway, but I was asked to do that, and I thought it was quite nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I told my wife when we were watching it, and we knew that we were going to have you on the show. I said, now every time I go to the racetrack, I'm going to have to say, like, Mario Andretti knows my name. You've got to let me in now, and see if they just let me in without buying a ticket.
Right.
I'll give it a go.
Hey, good luck.
So we're two guys in our early 30s, and we had a dream of starting a podcast about our passions, and we never dreamed that we'd be having you on here. So it's been a great life experience and a lot of fun. But anything's possible. So I'm just wondering, like, in terms of advice that you give and get, what's the best advice you ever got?
Well, like slow down just a bit, just trying to stay alive. It was one of the best things, early on in my career, because I think you have a tendency to just overdo things because you never feel that you're fast enough or you're impressing people enough. And I was really, really fortunate early on when I didn't, especially got into the IndyCar, the top level, with Clint Bronner, the chief that I had there, and Jim McGee. They, like I said, Jim McGee said, I was sending you Christmas cards in July because I never thought you lived until Christmas, So they kept saying, you know what, just bring it home and all that. And because you can slow somebody down a little bit so you don't make as many mistakes. You can never teach anybody to go fast, believe me. And but I think they did me a lot of favors by making me feel like, as fast as you feel you're going, it's good enough for us. That's really what they were telling me. And that's the best advice I ever got in my life, in my career, for sure.
That's good. Is there any advice that you pass on to younger folks as they follow their dreams, be it on the racetrack or elsewhere?
Well, anywhere in life. I mean, Bart, you were just saying yourself that, you were striving to just get into this business, what you're doing now, and you pursued it and you're doing it and you're enjoying it. Obviously, you have to be. And you find a way. You find a way to just go on and be better, have more prominent people with you, because obviously that raises the level of interest for what you're doing. But it's all about, having some ambition, having idea of a direction that you want your life to take. Especially when you're still a student, when you go to college and so forth. I think the ones that will be the most successful in life, the ones that know, what specific area they want to, to graduate from, and to have a direction. And always think big. You know what? you'd be surprised that if you're if you really want it bad enough, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, last question for you here. Everybody knows the Mario Andretti that goes fast. My dad, I can remember when I was 15, had my learner's permit, he would slow down, Mario, it's not a race. And so everybody's going to always remember you for your racing accomplishments. But when you go beyond the titles, beyond the trophies and the races, what do you hope that fans remember about Mario Andretti?
Well, I don't know what to say, but one that person that actually appreciates life. I have no idea how much appreciation I have for the fans, the help that I've had over the years. Just the expression of encouragement that I've had. People have been so wonderful. Just like even in moments of sorrow, like losing, I lost my sister, my wife, my nephew, and then my brother, just in a short period of time. And how kind people are to go out of their way to comfort you. There's a lot of love out there. And again, it goes both ways, quite honestly. So basically, I'm fortunate that up to today, if I don't live another minute, I've lived my life to the fullest, and I'm count my blessings every day. That's all there's to it. And I've had help from so many people. I haven't done anything by myself.
Right.
Just even the way I surround myself today with the people that have with me, working with me. I think, and most people have been here 20, 30, 40 years, together. So we have great relationships, and that's why we function well, because we're like a big family.
Yeah. And well, to finish out, Bart said it earlier. We are so grateful that you have come on this show to be a part of it. You are a treasure. Your family is just a treasure to the sport of auto racing. And for 7 generations now, you've just been inspiring future racers. You've been inspiring us to do stuff like this and reach to the next level. As a small gesture of our appreciation, we would love, we know that Aldo passed recently. We would love to dedicate this episode to Aldo and your family and just what you all have done for the sport of auto racing. And we pass our love on to you, to your family. And we just appreciate you being a part of this. It means more to us than you could ever imagine.
Chris, I appreciate that more than you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mario, and we'll let you go, and maybe we'll see you out at a track sometime.
You bet. Look forward to that.
Thank you, Mario.
Guys. All the best to you.
You too. Bye-bye.